There has always been something about the Great Ape from Dragon Ball, the Oozaru. Something raw that I just love. A giant monster to serve one purpose: destruction. But despite the iconic status of the Oozaru, the Great Ape in Dragon Ball, it's not immune to criticism, both valid and sometimes hilariously exaggerated. Over the years, especially among fans who favor the late Z or Super era, the Oozaru form has drawn some flack. Here's a breakdown of the main criticisms, hate, and oddball opinions that have surfaced, both serious and ridiculous, that I've seen. A common negative opinion and criticism about the Oozaru is that it's just a big dumb monkey. Some fans dismiss the transformation, calling it uncreative, calling it a giant King Kong ripoff. They say this because it lacks finesse compared to later forms like Super Saiyan, which are flashier and come with unique energy auras and techniques. Some felt the Great Ape slowed the pacing of the fight, that when characters transform into Oozaru, it becomes more brute force based, making it a much slower experience to watch, less about martial arts and more monster movie, with some fans even found that boring, claiming Goku and Vegeta was way better before the monkey showed up. But to me, I felt that was all part of the complete package of that fight. The fact that Vegeta had that at his disposal only added tension for me throughout the entire fight before it showed up. Some fans don't like the fact that Saiyans go initially brain dead, except elites like Vegeta, where they can't control the Oozaru form, making it a berserker state. Some critics say this removes any nuance or strategy from the transformation. Congratulations, you're strong now, but you're just a mindless animal. I've seen some logical nitpicking too. Requiring a full moon or artificial moon for transformation is seen as impractical by some, outdated and too circumstantial. That the weakness to moonlight is stupid. Some commentary involves why would elite warriors rely on weather-dependent power-ups. And of course, it got power creeped out of existence. A lot of Z and Super era fans critique that once transformations like Super Saiyan appeared, Oozaru became obsolete instantly. It offers a 10 times power boost, though it does feel like a hell of a lot more when it's on screen, but it pales in comparison on paper to its insane power-up scaling later on. The complaints include, why even bother with Great Ape at all when Super Saiyan gives you power without turning you into a skyscraper-sized liability? But for anybody that watched Dragon Ball, especially the anime, that was the whole point and the progression of the Saiyans. The fact that Goku could control the Super Saiyan state without becoming the giant ape. The superiority of Super Saiyan to Oozaru was the story. It wasn't just a sad inconvenience where, oh no, Oozaru isn't useful anymore. It all built up in that Saiyan and Namek saga to Super Saiyan. Goku being totally different from all the Saiyans before him, yet he was the one who could control the Super Saiyan in his humanoid-like form. But just like any other transformation in Dragon Ball, a criticism I've seen even towards the Oozaru is that Toriyama just wanted to set up some merchandise opportunities to sell a big Great Ape. I don't know how much of that is true. All I know is Toriyama created a damn good story with it in and implemented it well. We can't miss talking about the Saiyan tails, which some people come up with a weird argument that it's a plot hole. Critics point out that Saiyan tails are inconsistent. Characters forget to remove them. Sometimes they regrow, sometimes they don't. That inconsistency makes Oozaru seem like a forgotten gimmick, but there is source material explaining why the Saiyan tails don't grow after some time, especially when you consider Goten and Trunks, they don't have tails. It's to do with the evolution process, and that the tails are just a relic of the past. And let's not forget the obvious one, Toriyama just didn't like drawing tails. He even came up with a complaint that he didn't know where to put a hole for the tail in the clothes. Toriyama had a lot of work on his hands, and rightfully he was trying to make things easier where he could. But when it comes to the series, some only thought it was cool in the original Dragon Ball. After that, it was just lazy. Some fans feel like it was only relevant during Goku's first transformation and the Vegeta fight. And after that, its appearance like GT's Golden Oozaru was just seen as a lazy retread. Though it depends who you ask. I personally really like the reintroduction of the Great Ape in Dragon Ball GT for my own reasons. You get some corners of the internet appealing to the furry culture when it comes to the Oozaru due to the fan art and the primal animalistic aesthetic of the form. This is just a tongue-in-cheek insult more than anything serious, but it's definitely out there, among many other insults to all the forms and characters in Dragon Ball. Some fans say a race of elite space warriors shouldn't rely on primal, uncontrollable rage monster transformations. It makes them seem more like wild beasts than tactical fighters. But I always felt that was the interesting thing about Saiyans. They had this barbaric-like fighting instinct, yet had all the gadgets that they took from the Tuffles and so on. And depending on the continuity you look at, there's always interesting information out there about the Saiyans and their history, but mainly some feel like the Great Ape, the Oozaru, is too situational to ever be relevant again. With a lack of tails and full moons in Z, Super, and beyond, the Oozaru form is basically inaccessible, especially if their tails don't pop back out, due to their genetic pattern changing from getting stronger, or whatever the plot requires, but it's seen as a relic of early Dragon Ball, which some fans feel make it pointless today. But again, these are just some criticisms that I've experienced over the years. It doesn't mean it's the same for everybody, because the Oozaru form is beloved by many fans, even if its utility, control issues, and lack of flashy appeal make it a punching bag for newer gen fans. I feel like the Great Ape in Dragon Ball is one of the most iconic and underrated transformations in the entire franchise. While later forms like Super Saiyan and Ultra Instinct tend to dominate the spotlight, the Oozaru represents the raw, primal essence of Saiyan power, the foundation for it. Even though the Oozaru increases a Saiyan's power by tenfold, confirmed in the manga and Daizenshu 7, I feel like the portrayal is way more important than a number. When it's on screen, it feels like it gets the job done. There's always tremendous tension when the Oozaru is on screen. And when you consider low-class Saiyans going back to early Dragon Ball, the Oozaru can make low-class Saiyans extremely dangerous, considering the power levels back then. Now when it comes to the Moonlight activation, I feel like it adds strategic depth. It's not just mindless rage mode in my opinion. The requirement of Blutz waves or Brutes waves from a full moon or energy ball creates a battlefield manipulation strategy. Vegeta's Power Ball technique is a great example of tactical planning, showing Saiyans have contingency plans for their trump card at that time. And although low-class Saiyans have shown to lose control, Vegeta proved that through training he could speak, plan, and fight tactically while in the Oozaru form, so there's definitely progression there for that form. Meaning it's not just a berserker state, it's a super soldier transformation for those skilled enough to master it. What I like about the Oozaru is its massive strength, durability, brute force. When on screen, it's able to crush buildings, mountains, gigantic enemies, absorb massive energy blasts, and able to beat down multiple opponents at once. The sheer size and presence of the Oozaru is a form of psychological warfare. The transformation inspires fear and chaos among enemies, especially non-Saiyan civilizations, hence why Saiyans used it for a planetary genocide. It's essentially a kaiju transformation like Godzilla, giving Dragon Ball a cinematic scale of destruction that few other forms match. I always felt like there's a symbol of Saiyan heritage there as well. The tail and Oozaru form are genetic traits of pure Saiyans. It's a literal tie to their primal warrior roots. And it gets in-universe respect as well. Frieza's entire empire feared the Saiyans partly because of this transformation, which allowed even weaker class warriors to destroy planets. And before they had energy-based power scaling, Oozaru was the main tool used by Saiyans to conquer worlds for Frieza. So the Oozaru wasn't just an early gimmick, it laid groundwork for later Saiyan transformations, especially the Golden Oozaru and Super Saiyan 4 in Dragon Ball GT. In GT, regaining the tail and transforming into the Golden Oozaru was the key step to achieving Super Saiyan 4. Because their tails would never grow back naturally, Goku and Vegeta had to find a way to take a step back in order to go 10 steps forward in GT, a form that used the obsolete Oozaru's primal power with Saiyan awareness and control to evolve and beat the newest enemies at that time. So at least in classic Dragon Ball, that makes the Oozaru an integral part to the evolution of Saiyan power, but not in Dragon Ball Super in the main continuity right now, because the evolution of power comes in the form of divine energy, and the power of God forms a totally different path. Though when it comes to aesthetics, it's primal and terrifying. Many fans love it. The giant glowing red eyes, snarling beast face, massive frame. It looks like something unstoppable despite its 10 times multiplier, and it's a massive contrast to the more refined and enlightened forms like Super Saiyan Blue or Ultra Instinct. But my final thoughts, the Great Ape may be overshadowed in the modern Dragon Ball power scale, but that doesn't make it obsolete entirely. It's strategic, symbolic, and monstrously effective. In fact, the Oozaru form is one of the only transformations that truly blurs the line between a warrior and a force of nature.